Now to those large protests in Iran over the death of a young woman in police custody.
The demonstrations are continuing and have spread around the world. For more, Nos Hosseini from the Iranian Women's Association joins us in the studio. Good morning to you. We are very sorry for what we're seeing over there. What is the latest that you can tell us?
Thank you so much for having us again here on the show. So the current death toll has climbed to over 200. I don't know what the Iranian regime's reporting as the death toll, but the official figures on the ground are that over 200 protesters have been killed. Thousands of protesters have been arrested. The protests have erupted all over Iran, and we're currently worried about Niloufar Hamedi, the journalist who took that famous photo of Mahsa as she lay in bed.
What's the latest you've heard about that journalist?
We haven't heard, we don't know of her whereabouts. All we know is that she's been arrested and she's currently in an undisclosed location. God knows what torture and trauma they're going to inflict on this poor woman who was so courageous in broadcasting that picture to the world.
Talk us through just the difficulty of trying to get information out.
It's very difficult. I mean, there's no internet access. I've heard from friends and family who are in Iran that they have to access the internet through a VPN, and they were sending me text messages and videos, and when I looked back to check out those videos again, I noticed that they had been deleted and the messages were unsent. And I was told that the internet access or the VPN access stops at around 4 o'clock. So it's not a continuous service, and they don't have an opportunity to really send their messages across to the outside world.
Nos, how does this end in your view? Obviously, there is no shortage of anger still in terms of protests, global outrage over what's gone on in Iran, but on the other side, the regime is showing absolutely no sign of backing down. So where does this end? Where do you fear this ends, I guess, is the better question.
I mean, the Iranian people have been at the mercy of the Iranian regime since the 1979 revolution. The bloodshed has not stopped, and in order for that bloodshed that we're seeing all across the world to end, the international community needs to put external pressure on the Iranian regime and stop this policy of appeasement that's characterised the relationship between the regime and the West. That's the only way that things will change, by assisting the Iranian resistance movements, opposition groups, and the Iranian diaspora. That's the only way that things are ever going to change in Iran.
Do you see any threat to the regime at all from just the internal uprising alone?
Of course, there is a threat to the regime. There's a threat to their very existence, and that's why they're clamping down on the protesters in such brutal ways. That's why Mahsa Amini's name has not been in vain, and we hope that it's not in vain. We hope that the death of all the protesters that have been participating in this movement are not in vain. We don't want there to be one more Mahsa. There should not be one more Mahsa. We don't want to see what's happening on the streets continue. We don't want to see that level of bloodshed. But unfortunately, it's the only way that the Iranian people are going to get their messages across, by taking to the streets, by risking their lives. But if we don't stand up and listen and fight for the rights of the Iranian people and show them solidarity, the uprisings that have gained so much momentum and have erupted all across Iran will cease, so long as that...
Do you see that support when you see protesters in Perth or Sydney? Does that make a difference?
It really does. I mean, the Iranian regime monitors the Iranian diaspora and is so concerned about what people are saying about it outside Iran, let alone inside Iran. So it's very important for us to band together as a community and continue those protests. And I'm actually going to be attending one of those protests this Thursday at 6 p.m. at Federation Square, and I'll be speaking along with other members of the Iranian community in solidarity with the People's Movement of Iran.
That's Federation Square in Melbourne for people who want to come along and join in and show their support. Nos, thank you very much for keeping us up to date. We'll probably speak to you again about this, but we do want to keep this story in people's minds.
Sure, we really do appreciate that. Thank you.